Hi Snehanshu, so happy to see you after so long.
Hi Talvinder, it's been really long time since we've spoken.
Absolutely. And कितना टाइम हो गया हम लोगों का? करीब 20 साल हो गए, राइट? 20 साल, आपको 20 साल हो गए? 19 साल, right? Of knowing each other.
19 years of knowing each other, yes.
19 years of knowing each other, wonderful.
Yeah.
So we met in IIT Bombay, Hostel 5.
Correct.
Right? You were one of the nicer seniors. जो बचाते थे बच्चों को रैगिंग से कि मत करो, रैगिंग बुरी चीज है. But good times, and see, like, we are still around, we are still doing things. स्नेहांशु, आपकी जर्नी मैंने स्टार्टिंग से ट्रैक की है. कॉलेज ग्रेजुएशन के बाद आपने क्या क्या किया? कंसल्टिंग की, MBA किया, then you switched gears to entrepreneurship, and उसमें भी आपने बहुत अलग अलग तरह की चीज़ें की. So today in this conversation, I would love to unravel all of these things that you have done in the past. And what you're doing right now, is pretty exciting. जो आपका नाम भी है कागज, वो उसकी origin story बड़ी interesting है. किसी का नुकसान, किसी का नफा.
We'll get to that.
We will talk about that as well. So before we get into all the serious talks about Kaagaz and business and startups, I would love to know what was your journey. Where were you born? Where did you study?
I was born in Udaipur in Rajasthan. That's where my parents live now. But I've actually lived most of my early like schooling and everything was done in a small place called Rawatbhata, which is also in Rajasthan, close to Kota. Rawatbhata. There's a nuclear power plant there. My father used to work there. He's now retired and settled in Udaipur, but he used to work there, and that's where I was brought up. Born in Udaipur, but brought up till my 10th class. It was all in Rawatbhata. It's a small township, basically settled because of the nuclear power plant, and वही लोग रहते हैं वहाँ पे सारे जो nuclear power plant में and related plants वगैरह में job करते हैं. So that's where I did my early schooling, and till 10th I was there. Or like it is for most of these smaller towns, and especially a town जहाँ पर nuclear power plant है, सारे लोग engineer ही होते हैं वहाँ पे. So या तो engineer या doctor. Those are the two career options that you had practically. कोई engineer बनना है या doctor बनना है. Doctor समझ नहीं आ रहा था. Engineer बनना है, तो engineer बनने के लिए इंडिया में where is the best place to go to? You go to an IIT. IIT जाने के लिए क्या करना पड़ता है? कोचिंग करने के लिए कोटा जाना पड़ता है. I mean, this I'm talking about 2000-2001 period. तब कोटा के अलावा like online coaching and all of that was not there. Kota was the only place we would go, and we were lucky enough to be just like 50 kilometers away from Kota. So it was an obvious choice कि कोटा जाएंगे, JEE की तैयारी करेंगे, IIT निकालेंगे. फिर लाइफ सेट हो जाएगी टाइप से.
फिर लाइफ सेट हो जाएगी.
So that's where after 10th I went to Kota, studied there for 2 years. First attempt didn't get through IIT. तब I don't know what's the format now. तब एक screening हुआ करता था, screening के बाद mains हुआ करता था. I think अभी JEE mains और फिर JEE advanced है सब structure.
कुछ हाँ अभी change हो गया.
हाँ, so first time didn't get through. Then took a drop. वापस से prepare किया, 1 साल और दिया, and then got through into IIT in 2003 and joined IIT Bombay. So,
okay.
Yeah, so 2003 reached IIT Bombay. 2004 is when we met, and then of course 2003 to 2007 was IIT Bombay. IIT पहुंचे थे तब तक तो अपने स्कूल में आप मतलब one of the best students in studies at least, and when you reach IIT you realize सारे लोग स्टड हैं, and there is a reality check कि बहुत सारे लोग हैं यहाँ पे जो पढ़ाई के अलावा बहुत सारी और चीजें करके भी आए हैं. So then you realize कि अच्छा there's more to things, and that's when you get exposed, and that's also the idea of college. Here you get exposure to so many different kinds of things.
Correct.
Which was a great learning experience over the 4 years. Made some wonderful friends. Did many things which I never would have even known while I was growing up in small place like Rawalpata. Think about Tech Fest, which is the college
Correct.
fest of IIT Bombay, one of the largest technology festivals in the country.
तो I'll interrupt you there. So two things हैं, मतलब एक तो टाइमिंग बहुत सही है, कि आज कल ही ओपनहाइमर रिलीज हुई है. हम लोग न्यूक्लियर पावर प्लांट की बातें कर रहे हैं. बहुत सही टाइमिंग है. The other thing is कि I think ऐसी जगह में ग्रो होने का अपना मजा भी है, अपना नुकसान भी है, कि एक तो प्रेशर अपने आप बन जाता है और अज्यूम्ड होता है, राइट? कि जब तक आप बाहर नहीं निकलते, जो आजकल के जमाने में बोलते हैं ना कि अरे टॉक्सिक प्रेशर है और टॉक्सिक एनवायरनमेंट है, आपको पता भी नहीं कि आप उसमें थे.
I don't know it was toxic or not, but yes, there was of course pressure कि यार IIT करना है, because that was like कि IIT निकल गया तो लाइफ सेट हो जाएगी टाइप का माइंडसेट तो था ही. तो IIT करने का प्रेशर बहुत था. And even I mean in general studies, all small town places, studies is the main focus. कि पढ़ाई कर लो तो जिंदगी सेट हो जाएगी. और even further when you are in an environment जहाँ सब लोग जॉब करते हैं, like business has a different kind of thought process, even business families have a different kind of thought process. But when everyone around you is doing jobs, then that means कि पढ़ाई कर लो तो आगे सब कुछ सेट हो जाएगा. वो प्रेशर था.
ये थीम बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है. विल कम टू दिस थीम अगेन एंड अगेन. कि लाइफ सेट हो जाएगी ना, ये कर लो फिर लाइफ सेट हो जाएगी. सो I think I have a question. वो टेक फेस्ट की जो बात कर रहे थे, so for those who don't know, Tech Fest is a technology festival of IIT Bombay, and it's one of the largest technology festivals across the world, if not Asia. Right, by far, by a huge margin. Right. And you were part of that Tech Fest right from the beginning. जहाँ पे बहुत सारे interesting events, interesting conferences, बहुत कुछ करवाया था. Right? Talk to us about it. Did that shape your mind in some way? क्या हुआ?
So when I joined IIT Bombay in 2003, first year में तो you just get involved in whatever the senior that takes you to, and you go there and work. And of course मुझे भी ये था कि यार करना है, कुछ करके देखते हैं, ये सब opportunity मिल रही है तो there's the cultural festival, there's the technology festival. I was part of like working in both of those in the first year, thoda idhar, and then kind of liked working in the Tech Fest team. जिस तरह के events हो रहे थे, जिस तरह का काम वहाँ पर हो रहा था, I was more part of so there are departments. There's a 20-member team that manages that festival for that year, and अलग-अलग departments में बटा हुआ होता है. And I was part of the publicity department. It was called publicity at that time. I don't know what they call it today. But basically हमारा काम ये था कि सारे colleges में across India and हमारे college में itself IIT Bombay में we have to promote Tech Fest. कि Tech Fest हो रहा है, ये events हो रहे हैं, ये lectures हो रहे हैं, ये performances हो रही हैं. All of that you have to make sure the message goes across. That time was not digital as much as it is today. तो तब पोस्टर बनाया करते थे, पोस्टर बनाकर कुरियर करना to all different colleges, making sure it's getting put up at the right notice boards. Those kind of things was what we used to do as part of the publicity team. पहले साल तो organizer position होती है टीम में, जहाँ खूब सारे लोग होते हैं, basically first year students who help do this. Like doing it, तो second year में became more involved, and this time around didn't do anything on the cultural festival side because इसमें बहुत time लगता है, and throughout the year you get busy. Did more work, enjoyed doing this more. That led to in the third year becoming part of the core team of the 20-member team, where then you get to lead a team of coordinators and organizers who are basically first year and second year students as part of the team. So did that for third year. तो third year में जब manager बने तो manager बनना is it was kind of a big thing in the campus. Here there are certain positions of responsibility in the campus. There are these festivals and then some institute body positions, and this is one of the kind of a big thing at campus कि हाँ तुम Tech Fest में manager हो. something that you could also put on your resume and had a lot of value at that time. So that aside, I mean, the resume value and all of that aside, having gone through this grind over 3 years and going from someone who's part of a team, then grows into a slightly bigger role where you have some people to who work with you and some people you report to in some sense. And then you get to the manager position where you now have the whole team and a budget to handle at an age of like 20 years age. It was big, like to handle a budget like that and to handle a team like that.
लगभग बजट क्या होता था
यार उस टाइम पे? आई थिंक हमारा 2006 का टेक फेस्ट था, आई थिंक 50-60 लाख रुपीस का बजट था हमारा टोटल उस टाइम। दैट वाज बिग। हां, दैट वाज बिग एट दैट टाइम।
50-60 लाख रुपए मतलब जिंदगी सेट हो गई।
मतलब 50-60 लाख रुपए का बजट फॉर अ 3-day फेस्टिवल, and of course over a period of 8-9 months you prepare for it, but a 3-day festival, that was a big sponsorship amount that you had. उसमें करानी भी बहुत सारी चीजें होती थी, but for a team like 20-year-olds, 20 people managing that kind of budget in 2005-6 was big.
So 20 लोगों में तो कोर टीम होती थी, राइट?
कोर टीम, करेक्ट।
लेकिन जो पूरी फौज होती थी बाकी फ्रेशीज की सेकंड ईयर, तो कितनी बड़ी टीम होती थी?
हाँ, मतलब आई एम श्योर इजीली 150-200 लोग काम करते होंगे अक्रॉस ऑल। एवरीवन वुड हैव एटलीस्ट 10 people or even more. Now I'm thinking कि यार और ज्यादा होंगे, क्योंकि एक मैनेजर के अंदर एटलीस्ट 3-4 कोऑर्डिनेटर्स होते हैं, हर कोऑर्डिनेटर के अंदर 5-7 ऑर्गेनाइजर्स होते हैं आराम से, which would mean a much larger team. Even 200 would be small.
Correct. I think 300-400 लोग तो होते थे
जो contribute करते थे across.
Correct. And come to think of it, if you think about TechFest that way, मतलब छोटी मोटी स्टार्टअप भी हो गई यार सीड स्टेज फंडिंग के साथ में।
हाँ, बिल्कुल
है ना, जिसको 3 दिन के अंदर में कुछ तो मचाना है।
Correct.
But I
mean, kind of exposes to so many things as a young person. I mean, leadership, तब तक leadership पता नहीं होता leadership है क्या। उस वक्त भी we're just doing things, but you're basically leading a team and learning those formative years of how to lead people, how to get things done at a certain scale. That gets, something that you learn and pick up during that period, which helps later also in your career.
Absolutely. So that would have definitely played a role in your eventual journey. But before
I mean, in multiple levels, but yes, it definitely played a big role.
So before we get into the deep end of your journey, of course, सबके सब IIT नहीं जाते हैं, right? Limitations हैं, कुछ reasons हैं, and I don't think it has anything to do with pure intelligence or pure smartness.
Absolutely.
I think it's a lot of other factors, बहुत सारे factors हैं, which are beyond the control of an individual, right? So ये सब बातें सुन के काफी बार लोगों को लगता है कि तुम तो IIT चले गए तो तुम्हारा तो हो गया, बाकी सब तुम्हारे लिए एकदम रोज पेटल्स के साथ में स्वागत होता है तुम्हारा रेड कार्पेट के साथ में, which is not strictly true, although somewhat true, कि डोर्स खुल जाते हैं लेकिन उसके बाद उतने ही जोर से बंद भी होते हैं।
Yes. No, it helps definitely. I mean, first on the point of getting into IITs, तो मेरा फर्स्ट ईयर में नहीं हुआ था। आई डोंट थिंक फर्स्ट टाइम और सेकेंड टाइम में आई वुड हैव फेल्ट कि बहुत मेजॉरिटी कुछ चेंज हो गया। आई फेल्ट कि मेरा फर्स्ट टाइम में भी आई वाज गुड इनफ टू गेट इन, बट ऑन दैट पर्टिकुलर डे एंड इट्स सो टाइट कि एक नंबर पे थिंग्स चेंज। ऑन दैट पर्टिकुलर डे आई वाज नॉट लकी इनफ टू गेट इन। द सेकेंड टाइम आई वाज लकी एंड probably there'll be more people who were not lucky on that day. So there is a big part of that कि इतने सारे लोग अटेम्प्ट करने वाले हैं, इतने से लोगों का सिलेक्शन होना है। There is an element of luck and those things coming in. हाँ, randomness coming into it कि उस दिन what happened. I mean, a lot of things. I mean, मई जून में एग्जाम होता है, बहुत ज्यादा गर्मी होती है। एक किसी स्कूल में हो रहा होता है जहाँ आप एग्जाम दे रहे हो और बाई चांस पंखा आपके ऊपर वाला नहीं चल रहा। And yes, that could just be a bad day for you.
Totally.
So I wouldn't say कि I mean it differentiates people कि भाई ये IIT चला गया तो ये अलग हो गया, It's just that that worked for that person.
Correct.
And that's.
So I have a question here, right? So एक होता है कि ठीक है, आप चले गए, आप IIT में चले गए, you got exposure to a lot of very interesting things at a very different scale, right? Plus also you got a very different peer group, you know, जिसका होता है you are the average of the people around. तो अगर average ही अच्छा है तो फिर average उस level तक पहुंच ही जाते हो कुछ लोग, right? So what about people who have not been to IIT or similar colleges? उनका क्या? What should they look for? Most of the people जो शायद ये सुनेंगे देखेंगे, they may not be from IITs or similar colleges. तो क्या करना चाहिए उनको? What do you think?
Yeah, when I look back at my time at IIT, and I'm talking about 2003 to 2007, from that, तब ना थोड़ा सा ये था कि आपको कुछ चीज़ों का एक्सपोजर, आप IIT में हो या किसी ऐसी जगह पे हो जहाँ पे ये चीज़ें हो रही है तो ही एक्सपोजर मिल सकता था, just by being in that place. But today the world has changed. Now everything is coming into your home with your phone and your laptop, where you have access to a lot of things which earlier were not possible. So 2003 से 7 के period में you would not know what kind of opportunities are available, what kind of things people are learning and talking about, and now everything is there on YouTube. You can go out and follow some people that you like and then learn things from them. जो कि पहले ये होता था कि आप वहाँ हो तो आपके सीनियर्स में आप किसी ने कुछ कर रखा है, आपका एक नेटवर्क बनता है, उससे आप कुछ से सीख पाते हो. आज वो restriction नहीं है. You have the opportunity to go out and learn from anyone you want. And that's helping us also now that we are sitting here, but we are, someone sitting in the US is an inspiration for us maybe, and we can't go there and meet them, but we can almost like learn from them directly because everything is available that way. Access to a lot of things. So at that point, applying for internships was a big challenge. यार internship कैसे मिलेगी? IIT में तो चलो फिर भी एक बार कोई placement process होता था for internships also. Still, it was difficult for everyone to. Incidentally, that's where my first startup was. Back in college, 2006-07, an internship portal called India Interns for people to get internships.
तभी कीड़ा लगा, पहला कीड़ा.
हाँ, तभी कीड़ा लगा था 2006 में. तब तो हाँ, मतलब that was something we didn't think of it as a startup at that time. It was just something interesting that we were trying to solve.
Question. So आपने एक opportunity देखी, internship जाना मुश्किल है. अगर हमारे लिए मुश्किल तो बाकियों को और मुश्किल होगा, तो मुझे पोर्टल ट्राई करते हैं. India Interns करके पोर्टल. Who were the co-founders?
I did with two of my batchmates. Again, TechFest team. Robin Baltani is now in Canada. And Sri Kumar Nayak is also here in India in Gurgaon. He's also working on his own startup right now. So we were the three of us who started at that time.
So before Internshala came, before all of these came,
we were kind of Internshala I think came a little later. उस वक्त when we started, there was one more company who was also trying to do a couple of more similar time. But yeah, I mean, we were just kind of trying to solve a problem that we saw, and we thought कि यार naukri.com हो सकता है jobs के लिए, तो internships के लिए भी कुछ क्यों नहीं हो सकता है. And that's what we went about solving that with that. But it was in a sense before the whole startup scene had kind of picked up in India.
Flipkart ही 2007 में आया था.
I think 2007 या 8 में Flipkart started. Ola started. I mean, the biggest of 2-3 stories in India. Ola started, I think, around 2008, 9, 10 that period.
10 में Ola शुरू हुआ था, 2007 में Flipkart हुआ था.
और it was kind of that time कोई scene था नहीं ऐसा, मतलब entrepreneurship. There was the first generation of companies like Make My Trip was around, Naukri was around, and around, not just around, they were big at that time.
Book My Show था.
Book My Show, Paytm, not as Paytm, but 197 doing some things was already there. There were a few startups from IIT Bombay who were there. I think Harpreet had already started Co-Cubes around that
Correct.
time.
Harpreet has started, and then I think Gupshup भी था, right? ऐसे
Gupshup was
के नाम
there.
पे था.
I think Weberu
Weberu
was the
के नाम से
company.
था. Correct.
Correct.
That was the precursor to SMS Gupshup.
Correct.
And actually, दो बड़ी interesting story है. One is the Ink, that company which became which was sold to I think Myntra, if I'm not wrong. And Myntra चालू हुआ था 2006 या 7 में. आई थिंक उस टाइम पे वो टेक फेस्ट मोरिंडो के साथ में उन लोग मिलकर काफी प्रमोशन करने की कोशिश करते उस टाइम पे. नया मिंत्रा आया था, लेकिन मिंत्रा की स्टोरी बहुत अलग थी उस टाइम पे.
करेक्ट दे वर डूइंग पर्सनलाइज्ड मर्चेंडाइज काइंड ऑफ
पर्सनलाइज्ड मर्चेंडाइज, जो कि आई थिंक हर कॉलेज के बच्चे के दिमाग में एक बार तो आइडिया आता ही है.
राइट सो आई मीन डिफरेंट टाइम्स स्टार्टअप हमने भी स्टार्ट किया था. एज आई सेड वी डिडंट थिंक ऑफ इट एज अ स्टार्टअप एट दैट पॉइंट. वी ऑनेस्टली वी वर जस्ट ट्राइंग टू सॉल्व अ प्रॉब्लम. एंड टेक्सास उससे एक साल पहले किया था. So we had like one whole year packed with so many things, and then suddenly there was a void. क्या 2006 में हमारा tech fest हो गया, we handed over to the next team. Now it's like कि अभी क्या करना है? There's so much time to do things. अभी क्या करना है? And plus, this was a problem that we kind of saw.
Plus final year ना, तो final में और time मिल जाता है. So if you can look back now, what would be the 2 or 3 takeaways from that first experiment and first dip into entrepreneurship?
I think one, being naive about what we are getting into was also, it had 2 sides to what eventually we were able to do and not do with India interns. One was being naive meant that हमें लगता था कर लेंगे, जो भी है कर ही लेंगे. ऐसा कोई मतलब पता नहीं था कि क्या challenges हो सकते हैं, कुछ हो सकते हैं. And we kind of also had the security of sitting in IIT Bombay campus, where you did not have, this was in my final year, so we did not have to think about कि अरे पैसे कहाँ से आएंगे, rent कैसे पे होगा, and all of that was not your problem to think at that point. And you could just focus on कि यार बनाना है, बनाते हैं and करते हैं कुछ. तो we were naive about all those things, and which was good, but we were also naive about building a company is different from building a product. And when post IIT, when we kind of decided that this is the journey that we're going to take, and said no to our campus jobs. I mean, campus placement में job लग गई थी, but then said no कि यार मुझे तो अपना company start करनी है. I'd said no. We said no to the jobs and decided to move to Bangalore.
तो एक सेकंड, तो ध्यान से देख लीजिए, ये ऐसे ही लोग होते हैं जो आईआईटी में घुसते हैं, जॉब लेते हैं, जॉब लेकर फिर छोड़ देते हैं, तो बैंगलोर जाके स्टार्टअप करते हैं. ऐसे ही लोग होते हैं.
But there is also kind of an anti-climax to this कि जॉब लेके मना कर दिया कि मैं तो अपना बिजनेस करने जा रहा हूँ, shifted to Bangalore, and then things happened which is where it kind of hit us कि building a company is different from building a product, and there were a lot of things that came our way which kind of scared us at that point. हाँ जी. कि अरे ये तो समझ नहीं आ रहा है, ये सब पार्ट तो हमें आता ही नहीं है, maybe we're not ready for it, and the ecosystem was not there to kind of guide us. There were founders in our immediate network, but kind of उस वक्त को था नहीं, पता नहीं, we did not go to them to get advice कि कैसे करना चाहिए, या advice मिली भी थी तो we were not kind of got scared.
Correct. वो समझ भी नहीं होती ना कि वो एडवाइस को एब्जॉर्ब करके इम्प्लीमेंट कर सके, उतनी समझ भी नहीं होती है, राइट? तो बेसिकली लाइफ वाज लाइक कि भैया रुक जाओ, अभी आई एम गोइंग टू गिव यू अनदर गुगली इन 1 year.
that was going to come, but बहुत सारे फैक्टर्स आ गए थे. मतलब इवन फ्रॉम अ फैमिली पर्सपेक्टिव, फैमिली सेड कि यार पागल हो क्या, आईआईटी से निकल के बढ़िया जॉब मिलती है, इतना मेहनत किया है, why are you getting into something which you don't know, you're not going to make money for a while? This doesn't make sense. Of course they supported, we went, then we realized कि थोड़ा सा मुश्किल लग रहा है, and then kind of other things added up to it, and we thought कि यार maybe we're not ready for it. In fact, we had won a business plan competition, had some little funding coming our way.
मुझे याद है वो जब मैं आईआईटी में था, मेरे को भी कुछ दी थी ना अपना कुछ करने की, तो आई वाज अवेयर करे इंडिया इंटर्न्स ने ऐसा जीत लिया, ये कर दिया, वो कर दिया, तो ये रोल मॉडल्स हैं इनके, यू नो, यही करना है अपने को भी.
But yeah, I mean, few months into it, we realized कि maybe we're not 100% sure of it right now, and decided to go back to the jobs that we said no to. Thankfully, the people were nice and they said कि कोई बात नहीं आता.
सुबह का भूला शाम तक.
Yeah, so I did take up the same job.
But would have been stressful. Would have been stressful to convince parents, convince everybody, and convince yourself and take that plunge.
Yeah.
Jump.
उस वक्त it was stressful, but as I said, we were naive, and which is also working in our favor कि नहीं हम तो IIT से है ना, हम तो दुनिया जीत ही लेंगे. So that kind of also helped कि we were able to take that decision without that much stress on कि अरे क्या होगा. We were not thinking too much. We just thought कि ये इसमें मजा आ रहा है ना तो ये करते हैं. देख लेंगे, हो जाएगा कुछ ना कुछ.
Correct. I think वो ignorance is bliss is basically one key takeaway in general. And आज भी I think वो true है. 20 साल हो चुके हैं, लेकिन I think अभी भी true है कि अगर सब कुछ पता चल जाए ना, if you know too much, that's a burden of knowing too much. Right, because then you think about all the possibilities of how it can go wrong, and it's like I was talking to some other entrepreneurs, some जो भी शुरू हो रहे हैं, तो I was telling them कि तुम अगर अपने formative year में starting अगर Final Destination मूवी देख लो, फाइनल डेस्टिनेशन 3, 4, 5 जो सीरीज हैं वो देख लो एक बार, तुम्हें घर से निकलने का मन नहीं करेगा और घर में भी तुम्हें डर लगेगा.
राइट.
तो समटाइम्स डोंट ट्राई टू नो एवरीथिंग, राइट, बिकॉज़ दैट विल स्केयर यू. एकदम डर लगेगा कि मैं एक कदम रखा नहीं कि जमीन धंस जाएगी, ऊपर से पंखा खुल जाएगा, कुछ हो जाएगा.
I think another important learning which I tell a lot of people now also, and still very true. हम लोग को तब लगा था कि है ना हमारा आइडिया ये सबसे यूनिक है और हम ना आइडिया किसी को बताएंगे नहीं, बता दिया तो कोई और कर लेगा टाइप से. And we very quickly realized, as I said, उस टाइम पे there were a couple of other companies getting started. One was getting started inside IIT Bombay itself, on the same idea, same direction. So we realized कि यार that's learning that I've taken. आप आइडिया सोच रहे हो, 10 लोग और सोच रहे हो. Eventually comes down to who's going to execute. Not everyone is going to start. A lot of them are not going to continue. And the ones who continue will then come down to who's executing better. So do not think of कि मेरा आइडिया तो बहुत यूनिक है. I mean, there are some ideas which can be very, very unique, but majority of the ideas are not. People are thinking about it also. It is important for you to talk about your ideas to others to get feedback. हम लोग अपने दुनिया में ना सोचने लगते हैं कि अरे मेरा आइडिया है. You get so married to your idea that you start feeling कि नहीं यही है, यही तरीका है.
Correct.
और ऐसे ही हो सकता है. This is the problem that everyone is facing, and यही solution है. That's when you put it out in front of people, you get feedback कि नहीं यार ठीक है, मतलब मेरे को इतना बड़ा प्रॉब्लम नहीं लगता है, या मुझे लगता है whatever existing solution is also fine for me. You get a lot of feedback which you won't get unless you share it out. Unless you start thinking कि मैं पहले बना लेता हूँ फिर लेके जाऊँगा बेस्ट
परफेक्ट करके जाऊँगा परफेक्ट.
तो फिर there are chances that you may miss out on some important insights which would have helped you.
Correct. I think वहाँ पे I think there's a very important takeaway in general कि एक मैं समझ में जो आ चुका था उस टाइम पे कि एक होता है प्रोजेक्ट जो कॉलेज का प्रोजेक्ट होता है कि आपने किसी तरीके खींच तान के थूक-पट्टी लगा के आपने काम करके लॉन्च कर दिया, दे दिया और वो दिख रहा है. टिल द टाइम चीफ गेस्ट आ रहा है तब तक वो खड़ा रहेगा. चीफ गेस्ट एक कदम आगे बढ़ा के वो गिर जाएगा. नियर ओके विद इट, राइट. दैट इज ऑल दैट इट वाज अ प्रोजेक्ट. इट्स अ कॉलेज प्रोजेक्ट. देयर इज अ डिफरेंस बिटवीन कॉलेज प्रोजेक्ट, कॉलेज प्रोडक्ट, अ प्रोडक्ट, एंड देन फाइनली बिल्डिंग अ कंपनी अराउंड इट एज अ रैपर, राइट. सो आप जो बोल रहे हो आई थिंक वो इसी पे आता है कि आपने जो आइडिया बनाया, सोचा उसको एक प्रोजेक्ट की तरह एग्जीक्यूट करके देखो, उसके बाद एक प्रोडक्ट की तरह एग्जीक्यूट करके देखो इन द इजीएस्ट मैनर, जिसको MVP बुलाते हैं. देन फाइनली एक प्रोडक्ट बनाओ कि ठीक है कुछ लग रहा दम है, चलो फिर आगे बनाते हैं. बट या गेटिंग मैरिड टू योर आइडिया हाउसएवर अनयूनिक इट इज वन ऑफ द बिगेस्ट issues.
Yeah.
Right. And issues in not just entrepreneurship, I think in the regular jobs also, right? जॉब में भी एक बंदे के दिमाग में आइडिया आया तो वो मेरा आइडिया था, मुझे क्रेडिट लेना है, मेरे को इस पे अप्रेजल मिलेगा, वो उसमें इतना फंस जाते हैं कि बाकी सब भूल ही जाते हैं कि भाई ये टीम है and everybody has to work together on it.
Right.
So coming to this, so आपने IIT किया, you took an unconventional step, तो 4 कदम आगे बढ़े, then it requires a tremendous amount of, I think, self-awareness to correct yourself. सेल्फ करेक्ट नहीं तो काफी लोग स्पेशली IIT हैं तो हम तो ईगो है भैया, हम कैसे पीछे हट जाएंगे, कैसे बोलेंगे भाई, है ना, गांधी सर का लड़का देखो स्टार्टअप करने गया तो वापस आ गया, राइट, वो भी ठीक नहीं है, राइट. So I think it takes a tremendous amount of courage to correct yourself, and it's okay to correct yourself. So you did कि ठीक है मेरे को ये नहीं करना है, and you realized up ahead, which requires a lot of guts. उसके बाद जॉब चालू की, and कुछ ही महीनों के बाद the world changed, right? What was that? What happened?
So I started job in 2007. 2008 is when the global financial crisis happened, right, which led to basically markets crashing everywhere, a slump in the economy everywhere, and which usually leads to job losses and those kind of things. What some of the people would relate to what's happening right now. 2008 was like that. It was more of a financial crisis at that time, so financial institutions had the bigger problem. But in fact was across the board on the economy.
Across the globe, and I think it's tremendously high. I think अभी जो हो रहा है वो है, लेकिन I think इससे कम से कम 10x था उस time पे. Like overnight companies wiped out.
Correct. And the scale of that was because it was immediately, I mean, at least in the US, which is where it started, it was immediately impacting like individuals. Normal people were getting impacted because of that. A lot of times the crisis that we hear about, and I'm not just talking about the job losses, but in general, जो पूरा housing वाला bust था वहाँ पर US में, which led to individuals getting impacted. This time around, probably it's more of large companies getting impacted because of what's happening, and that is trickling down to, of course, individuals as well. But it was bad. It was bad at that time. India also had its, and the ripple effect was there on India as well.
Correct.
I was honestly, now I look back, lucky that I didn't lose my job at that time. I remember we did not get any appraisals that year. Nothing, because business is slow. Our company, the company that I was working with, consulting में start किया था मैंने career. तो हमारे clients were primarily European clients, and who wanted to work in, like, do some work in India, and we were kind of consulting them on that. And suddenly there was a slowdown because of global slowdown. There was a slowdown in business, and like no increments coming to anyone. And thankfully did not lose my job, but I know a lot of people who lost, especially in banking sector, people lost their jobs. So yeah, I mean, but you just have to figure out, and when I look back, a lot of people who lost their jobs at that point are doing great right now. It's not that that period was stressful, of course. Immediately there's a job loss, and market में jobs ही कम हो गए हैं, तो immediate opportunities कम हो गई हैं. But people figured out things and bounced back. Maybe किसी को 2 महीना लगा होगा, किसी को 6 लगा होगा. But people bounced back. They kept on pivoting themselves as, you know, what skill sets they bring to a job, what kind of job roles they want to get to, industry switch करना है, job role switch करना है, startup करना है. All that happened in that period. Correct. People figured out. So it was stressful, but I think most people that I know of are, if they look back now, I think it was a blip.
Yeah, I think it was a massive blip अपना है ना. I think that period 2008 के उस recession की वजह से, I think 2009, 10 and 11 saw a massive jump in startup activities.
Yeah.
That is when एक तरह से startup इंडिया में पैदा होना शुरू हुआ कि भाई नहीं करनी है तुम्हारी नौकरी, भरोसा नहीं है ना?
Right.
और
right.
and a lot of those people had already seen the .com bust.
Right.
जो कि 7-8 साल पहले हो चुका था,
2000
में, राइट? तो उससे बड़ी मुश्किल से हाफते निकले थे, एंड देन ये आ गया, तो बोला अब नहीं होगा, ये नहीं होगा हमसे, और which is what led to the second big revolution or the second big jump in the startup activities in India, which led to the launch of the Olas of the world. मेरा भी second startup तब शुरू हुआ था, right? And I know at that time सब इतना मतलब ऐसा ना एकदम जमीन जैसे सभी नई जमीन पे पानी गिरा है एंड जैसे बच्चे निकल रहे हैं कुल मिला के, उस टाइम पे हमें लगता था कि दुनिया बहुत आगे बढ़ चुकी है, लाइक हमें लगता था कि उस टाइम पे दुनिया बहुत आगे बढ़ चुकी है, स्टार्टअप्स आर एवरीवेयर, वी इन आवर वर्ल्ड स्टार्टअप्स वर एवरीवेयर,
राइट?
हाँ, कि हर कोई स्टार्टअप ही कर रहा है, और ये तो ऑब्वियस है, जो नहीं समझ पा रहे वो गधे हैं, राइट? एंड कोई ज़्यादा इन्वेस्टमेंट का भी कोई ज़्यादा सीन होता नहीं था. देयर वर फ्यू एंजल ग्रुप्स, मुंबई एंजल ग्रुप्स, कुछ एंजल ग्रुप होते थे, बाकी और कुछ था नहीं, बहुत ही कम इन्वेस्टर्स होते थे, एंड इवेंट्स भी नहीं होते थे, मीटअप भी नहीं, कुछ भी नहीं होता था. बट फॉर सम रीजन, फॉर सम फॉल्स रीजन, वी फेल्ट दैट अर्जेंसी, राइट? वी फेल्ट दैट अर्जेंसी कि अभी नहीं तो फिर कभी, अरे मैं भी नहीं करूँगा तो मतलब थिंग्स विल, अपॉर्चुनिटी लूज हो जाएगी, ऐसा कुछ होता नहीं है, टू बी ऑनेस्ट. नई अपॉर्चुनिटीज आ जाती हैं फॉर द राइट पीपल. सो वहाँ से आई थिंक यू वेंट थ्रू अ होल जर्नी ऑफ योर कंसल्टिंग, राइट? यू कंटिन्यूड, स्टक अराउंड टू द पॉइंट कि एक टाइम आया, फिर से खुजली हुई कि फिर से कुछ करना चाहिए. What was that?
So consulting, I think overall 3.5 years I did post IIT. I stayed in that same company, but consulting उसमें से पहला 2.5 साल लगभग consulting था, and then I was interestingly in a space, we were doing agri-business consulting in 2007 to 9 period, that period, and the founders of this consulting firm, it was a boutique consulting firm, छोटी सी company थी. They decided that we want to get into farming and like do proper horticulture. Fruits उगाएंगे, export करेंगे. Because we were doing agri consulting, we had kind of seen that, and the founders of the company, Mr. Pankaj Khandelwal and his wife Ms. Purnima Khandelwal, they started this company called IIT Farms, and I was part of I was the first person to join that team. This is still kind of incubated in the same company, but I was part of writing the first business plan and setting up the first pomegranate farm in Maharashtra. We grow pomegranates, export. So I did that for about 1.5 years, including the initial setting up and then running the operations for that farm for a year. And वो startup वाला कीड़ा तो था, तो I enjoyed this kind of environment where you get to work on 0 to 1 kind of things and get to start things. Set up initial and वो किया, but that's when I was kind of also not sure exactly what direction my career is going to take. While I was enjoying what I was doing, another thing that happens in India, like engineers बन जाओ, वैसे होता है कि MBA कर लो. So that is where I'd been thinking about MBA for a while. Thinking कि यार जॉब ही करना है, तो there are some point where MBA will start becoming important in your career. Initial years are fine. I was not a techie, so tech वाला अपना वो नहीं था, अपने को business roles is what I was going to be part of. Then made sense to do an MBA. So went to ISB Hyderabad 2011 after working for about 3.5 years. Went to ISB to do my MBA, 1-year MBA. So 2011-12 was ISB. Again, the kind of reality check that you get when you get into IIT, similar kind of happened here. कि आप IIT से हो, बहुत बढ़िया, you reach here, you realize that the kind of people who get to places like ISB is so diverse कि आपने तो अपने अराउंड सिर्फ इंजीनियर ही देखे हैं. वहाँ पहुँचते ही सडनली दिखता है कि you have an army major who is your batchmate, you have someone who's a musician as your batchmate, someone who's an author as a batchmate. एंड सडनली यू गेट एक्सपोज टू कि यार बहुत अलग डायरेक्शंस हैं लाइफ में जहाँ लोग मचा रहे हैं एंड अलग लेवल पे मचा रहे हैं. सो यू डिड गुड इन योर करियर बट दैट वाज नॉट ओनली ट्रैक दैट वाज अवेलेबल एंड
Correct.
सो
I
मेनी
think,
अदर थिंग्स कैन बी डन.
yeah, I think I would like to take a pause and highlight this, right? कि growing up, and abhi bhi I think this is true, growing up, we have been told that the definition of success is unidimensional.
Yeah.
Absolutely unidimensional. This is the only, while in reality, मैं थोड़ा physics का थोड़ा इस पे आ रहा है. So, जो पहले होता है planetary motion of electrons, right? कि planetary में motion में घूमते हैं atoms के बगल में. वहाँ से समझ में आया कि ये सही तो नहीं है, ये true तो नहीं है. And actually ये probabilistic distribution है कि कहाँ हो सकते हैं, वहाँ से निकल के आया, SPDF निकल के आया. तो वैसे ही the probability of you making decent money is higher in certain professions.
Right.
जिसके पाथवे डॉक्टर एंड इंजीनियर वाले में है, वो भी इसलिए बिकॉज बाकी जॉब्स एंड बाकी करियर्स के बारे में ज़्यादा बताया नहीं गया, ज़्यादा सर्कुलेट नहीं हुआ, एटलीस्ट उस टाइम पे. अभी फिर भी थोड़ा हो चुका है, राइट? लेकिन स्टिल द probability of if 100 people go through a certain role and make a certain money in their life so that they can get married, which is another benchmark of success in life, right? वो थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा है and उसी को लेकिन पत्थर की लकीर बना दी. तो it was a hard reality check for me also when I started discovering कि अच्छा इन लोग भी पैसे बना लेते हैं. देख, अच्छा इनकी लाइफ भी सक्सेसफुल हो सकती है, करियर में अच्छे हो सकते हैं, अच्छा ज़्यादा पैसे बना सकते हैं.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so I mean, people ask me कि यार MBA किया आपने ISB से specifically या in general MBA का क्या benefit है? Like, should people do or not? And one thing that I tell, I mean, of course, you get that the studies that you do, learn new things about things that you, especially as an engineer, don't know anything about finance, for example. Yeah. You get exposed to all those things. So that's there. You build a great network. That's another big, a diverse network, which is a big plus. Of course, you get the tag of an MBA and the brand that comes with it. Those are all beneficial in your careers. But I feel going to ISB and doing an MBA made me a lot more ambitious because I could now see that ये सब भी possible है. I was earlier thinking of some direction कि हाँ ये possible है. This is what I could do in my life.
Correct.
Suddenly you get exposed to कि भाई नहीं बहुत कुछ और है. I mean, you're thinking small. You can actually think bigger because there's so much more happening. And for me, 1 year MBA from ISB had the benefits that are usual, everyone would talk about, where you get a great network, you learn something, you get a great brand associated with you. Yeah. But the ambition that I got from there, and वो बोलते ना एक fire to come back to जो कि 3-4 साल जॉब के बाद थोड़ी सी डाउन होने लगी थी. That fire came back कि नहीं भाई बहुत कुछ और है करने को. I can't just become complacent so soon. And that was kind of what I took away biggest from my MBA. Of course it contributed to how my career has moved from there, but that was one big change and like a pivotal moment for me in a lot of sense in my life in general. And also the pivotal moment that you spoke about, I also got married in the same year. Before going to ISB, I got 2 months before going there, I got married.
ये होता कैसे है मुझे समझ में नहीं आता है. कैसे, how do you manage कि how do you even tell your would be in-laws कि भाई देखो मैं शादी करके ना क्या करोगे बेटा, मैं MBA करूँगा. How do you do that? And you are not alone, right? There's so many people who do that.
Yeah. ISB में तो बहुत सारे लोग करते हैं ऐसा.
Correct. और उसके अंदर I think because I know a few of my friends who got married and then went inside and took a there's a family quarters also.
Family quarters, yes.
So I'm just very curious कि ये conversation होती कैसे in-laws के साथ में, because Indian in-laws right मतलब बहुत ही अलग level के questioning होती है.
हाँ, तो फिर यार वो बताना पड़ता है ना कि ISB जा रहे हो, वहाँ से एवरेज सैलरी निकलने के बाद ये होती है, तो तुम्हारी भी हो ही जाएगी.
ROI, फिर ROI बता दे.
So I mean, in my case, I was engaged much before, and marriage was anyway on cards. And MBA was also kind of on cards, and I told them already that I'm thinking about it and I'll eventually at some point do that. So it was not a new conversation per se, but हाँ मतलब ये तो होता ही है कि अरे अभी MBA how do you manage family, expenses बढ़ गए हैं, all of that.
Correct.
But it was fun 1 year, and from all perspectives it was fun 1 year.
As we Hyderabad Hyderabad has given a lot of couples. Has given a lot of couples. मेरे काफी friends हैं जो कि
right.
They either discovered themselves or they got married and then directly उनका honeymoon सीधा ISB Hyderabad में हो रहा है.
Yeah.
Very nice. So after ISB, I think you launched one company.
Actually, I did. I moved to Indonesia. I worked for 3 years ago.
Okay, so let's talk about that first. What was that job?
So I had spent my career before ISB, a lot of it in agri sector. So the job that I got post ISB was also kind of because of my exposure to that space and working in that kind of space. So I got an opportunity to work in an Indonesian company. It was actually a Sri Lankan company with business across 4 countries, and I was part of the Indonesian business, which was in palm oil business. So practically every processed food that you eat, from your namkeens to your biscuits to your cakes, everything has palm oil. And 80% of world's palm oil grows and is produced in Malaysia and Indonesia. So very huge industry and very mature agriculture industry. So that's how from campus I got this opportunity and moved to Jakarta and worked in Indonesia for about, again, 3.5 years there. And good times. I mean, first time I was working in a large company. That company had like 15,000 people working, huge setup. उससे पहले हम तो छोटी कंपनी में काम किए थे और छोटा ही अपना करने का वो था. That was what I enjoyed more. But this was a different experience. How a mature company in a large setup like this, how our processes implemented to make sure that such a huge machinery works, or it goes to those kind of things. And that was a different kind of exposure learning for me for 3.5 years. And of course, Indonesia is a great place to live. Jakarta is also made great friends in Jakarta. Traveled around Indonesia a bit. So
correct. I think Jakarta, before this entire COVID, etc., Jakarta was actually giving a tough competition to Indian talent market, right? Indian talent market. A lot of talent moved to Indonesia because Jakarta was amazing. Actually, Indonesia is a pretty amazing place to live.
Yeah. And this was also, now I look back, when I was in Indonesia, I went there in 2012, came back in 2015. वहाँ पर ये जो tech startup scene था, that was actually just getting started when I was moving back. So 2015 is where Gojek was becoming big. Gojek just started getting into other verticals and becoming big. And startup scene in Indonesia is kind of picking up, and that uske around and uske baad is when you see a lot of Indian talent moving to these companies, and a lot of Indian companies moving operations in these countries.
So Gojek started this trend actually. 2016 में मैं पहले गया था. तो पहली बार experience किया था, right? कि वो tech scene outside. Right. And Gojek had started this entire trend of getting Indian techies to Indonesia. And उसका भी reason ये था कि Gojek had acquired a techie company in India as the tech center, and then because of that, Sidhu is the name of the guy, right? A good friend. So he was leading the entire tech for Gojek, and then they hired a lot of people, a lot of PMs, a lot of developers moved there.
Right.
So your journey has been basically atom, say anar, say oil, right?
Yeah.
Say away. Uske baad, once you came back, you started a very, very different company from everything that you've done.
Right.
What was that?
So when I was in Indonesia, while I was enjoying the life there, दो चीजें हो रही थी. एक तो इंडिया वापस आना था, काइंड ऑफ फॉर मल्टीपल रीजंस. वन, आई मीन आई एम मोर लाइक कि इंडिया है, अपने लोग हैं, क्लोज टू फैमिली एंड दैट काइंड ऑफ थिंग, यार वापस कंट्री जाना है. बट
देश
अदर थिंग दैट वाज आल्सो
देश मेरा
प्लेइंग अ,
स्वदेश
हाँ,
स्वदेश वाली फील आ
स्वदेश,
रही थी.
यस, स्वदेश वाली मतलब फील तो थी. बट देयर वाज आल्सो अनदर थिंग दैट आई वाज looking from outside and I was kind of feeling that थोड़ा सा FOMO भी हो रहा था, because tech scene in India was exploding at that time, started exploding at that time. 2012 से 14 के बीच में, when funding scene had become big, Ola, Flipkart had already become big.
Yeah.
A lot of new companies had started coming in that period. So I was like, यार, there's so much happening and I need to I mean, कुछ तो करना है ऑफिस जाके, let's do something. And honestly at that point it's not very clear कि अपना startup करना है. I was even thinking कि should I go and join some company in one of the startups, and some of my friends were also starting up, तो friends or seniors, so I was thinking यार कहीं join करते किसी को and then see what's happening.
हाँ जी.
During that kind of thinking and evaluating phase, saw this potential opportunity where it kind of got triggered with Indian government. The government had just changed in 2014 and there was a lot of push on Skill India campaign by the government. And Skill India का basic ये था कि सबको skill करना है. There's so many, so like the youth in India, there's a big opportunity there to needs skilling and needs opportunity. So kind of thinking ki there's something that can be done here around that, and I was exploring, and then I met someone who was also keen in this space while I was in Jakarta, and that led to another thing. Met Gaurav, who's my co-founder. Now we've been working together for 8 years across the two startups. But Gaurav, I started tapping in 2015 with the thoughts around कि ये करते हैं. And as we delve deeper into the problem, we realized कि skilling पे काफी काम हो रहा है, but skill होने के बाद जो लोग बाहर आ रहे हैं इन programs से, and I'm talking about electricians, plumbers, carpenters, etc. They go back to the same market where that skill is not getting that value. So we thought कि यार there is an opportunity to organize this space, and there could be something that can be created as a platform. Ola and Uber were already big, so we knew कि हाँ ये जो gig economy वाला scene है, that is going to be interesting, and gig economy kind of fits very well for this segment, electricians, plumbers kind of segment. They're already gig economy part. So we kind of thought कि इस space में कुछ करते हैं. At that point, it was also something that a lot of companies were studying. As I said initially, आप सोच रहे हो 10 और लोग सोच रहे हैं. Interestingly, इस टाइम पे शायद 100 कंपनीज और स्टार्ट हुई हैं.
बहुत exactly
2014
बहुत लोगों ने बहुत लोगों ने उस
पीरियड में
है ना
अलग-अलग सेगमेंट्स को पिक करा था. There were companies looking at this electrician plumber space. There were companies in laundry space. There were companies in beauty space. All getting started in that 1 year, 2014 से 15 के बीच में. Correct. Which is where we also kind of started TapMe with the idea that we'll provide employment to these technicians and offer good quality service to the customers. And we had a thesis around Tier 2 India. And we thought that Tier 2 India has a very big opportunity because जो सारा talent है, I mean, ये जो technicians हैं, are majority coming from small towns to bigger cities. Right. Get jobs क्योंकि उनके अपने city में jobs नहीं हैं. So there is an opportunity because that supply base is already there. If we could tap into that, we could create a platform and we could do it in Tier 2 at a much larger scale. I mean, Tier 1, there are only so many cities in India. Tier 2 is much bigger in terms of number of cities, and market overall could be very large, though it is also spread across the country. So that's how we kind of picked up कि Tier 2 में करते हैं. And started 2015 and launched in 2015 October is when we kind of started the company. 2016 March is when we launched our services in first city, and we actually picked up Visakhapatnam to start. Look back, it looks so उस वक्त ना simply analyzed all the cities that are there in the country and what all like some metrics we had कि population क्या है, किस type की economy है, like we did some analysis. Consultant तो था ही पहले करियर में, so एक बढ़िया सी एक्सेल शीट बनी थी जिसमें सारी cities listed थी and we kind of said कि यार करना ही है. तो अब हम लोग तो गुड़गांव में ऑफिस सेटअप कर रहे थे and we did not know any other city per se to say कि यार हम तो पहले बॉम्बे में रहे हैं और या फिर बहुत छोटे शहर में रहे हैं, तो we don't know any other city, तो क्या ही फर्क पड़ता है, कहीं से भी कर लेंगे. And then उस एनालिसिस के बेसिस पे few cities came and we said कि विशाखापट्टनम करते हैं. Now think back, maybe we wanted the toughest city to crack first. Tough in the sense, not that city had any challenges per se, but language भी नहीं पता है. Both of us did not know Telugu.
Exactly my question कि the language, culture पूरा different.
Correct. So I don't know. There were multiple factors which led to picking up Visakhapatnam, and we decided कि चलो विशाखापट्टनम में करते हैं. We had like some contacts there to get us started. So that was also one reason कि हाँ, initial hiring of these technicians and all those things can be done better in this city. So that's how we started. Then over the next 4 years, scale Daphne from one city to headquartered in Gurgaon. We had small operations in Gurgaon, but three major operations were Visakhapatnam, Patna, and Jaipur. And scale to, I think we served about 1.5 lakh customers across these three cities, and at one point had about 150 technicians working on our platform, providing services across these cities.
So you have been basically थोड़ा सा ahead of the curve continuously. Like जनता जब 2018-19 में बात कर रही थी कि भाई भारत, build for Bharat and all of the jazz, so you were already doing that पहले से ही.
I would like to take the credit of it, but not thinking from Bharat perspective, but just saw that कि यहाँ पे एक बड़ी opportunity है.
As a pure play opportunity, you
jumped in. Didn't think of it like Bharat and all of that. It's just that, maybe we come from Bharat in a lot of sense. Me, Gaurav, we come from small cities, small towns.
Correct.
We've seen that kind of, grown up with that kind of, in that kind of place. So maybe we had more inherent understanding of that market. And whatever we saw in terms of the opportunity, the numbers. One thing that like everyone told us was, यार tier 2 में कोई पैसे नहीं देगा.
Correct.
तुम सर्विस दोगे, कोई पैसे नहीं देगा. And our understanding and our thesis was, tier 2 would pay almost the same price as tier 1, but will be cheaper to operate. So overall economics would be better, which came true for us when we started working in these cities. कि AC सर्विस की कॉस्ट गुड़गांव में जितनी है, शायद गुड़गांव में कम है compared to what we were able to get now 8 years back, 7-8 years back in Visakhapatnam. People were willing to pay because people are willing to pay for a good quality service, which was not available to them. If you could give them good service, they were willing to pay. And working in Visakhapatnam, obviously the costs were lower. So the unit economics would be much better in a city like Visakhapatnam on a per order level. Of course, the scale would be smaller.
Yeah, that is so counterintuitive.
Yeah, and it was for a lot of people at that time.
Correct.
Even
I'm sure VCs ने भर के पास किया होगा.
हाँ, we did raise money, but it was not from a traditional VC investor. It was a lot of factors to that, but it was also something that we get a lot of questions around. Is there actually an opportunity? Can you actually make money there? Can you really, build a scalable business there? So, वो scale का question था कि Visakhapatnam eventually would be a smaller city compared to, let's say, working in Delhi or Bombay. But we also realized that this is hyper-local services. Hyper-local will always need to have pockets. Even someone working in Delhi NCR will have to break it into small pockets and operate it that way.
Correct.
क्योंकि hyper-local services हैं, आप एक electrician को गुड़गांव से नोएडा नहीं भेज सकते. भले ही Delhi NCR में look like a big market for you, it will have to be dealt even within गुड़गांव. बहुत दूर नहीं भेज सकते for it to be efficient operations. So you have to think of it like in small pockets, and then a small city works best for that. Visakhapatnam
Very
works like
interesting.
one pocket easily.
Very interesting. So basically, what you're talking about is कि while the obvious thing is कि हाँ बॉम्बे में तो बहुत मार्केट है, दिल्ली में बहुत मार्केट, but in reality, you're saying कि पूरे इंडिया में there are a lot of local maximas across different states, across different cities. बहुत सारे local maximas हैं जिस maxima में there is enough paying power for good quality service, and there is not availability. There is no available service provider.
Correct.
Which is where the opportunity lied. Very interesting.
Correct.